how do we get students involved? How do we get universities involved? How do we get the folks that like we might not know yet involved? It's one thing to get your friends involved, but I think it's so important to reach those like deeper layers of tech. When I look at the calendar of events, there's so many incredible things happening specifically around what does tech look like for immigrants? Like, what are we doing to make it more accessible to them? Toronto is like a global place to be, and pulling in attendees from sister cities. There's attendees coming from really across the globe, and that's where the city actually plays a really strong part in helping us get connected to those folks that we might not have known otherwise.
In Canada, and I think even Toronto and the local community of Toronto has been just the root of where talent comes from. It might not be where talent ends, and that's been a challenge. It is where talent comes from. And if you actually look at the progress of technology, and if you actually go to all the places where a lot of advancements are happening, a lot of people are going, and you will just keep running into Canadians. It's impossible to avoid them. And it goes to show how much of an impact we've had on this industry, even though that Canadians and Canada might not be attributed to it.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Tank Talks, the podcast where we dive into the real stories and bold ideas shaping startups, tech, and investing. Today I'm pumped to have Baird and Taha Hossain in the tank, two of the driving forces behind Toronto Tech Week, a brand new community-led festival that's taking over the city this June. With Collision saying goodbye to Toronto, Julie and Taha stepped up to fill the gap. A new movement that's all about community, inclusivity, and celebrating local tech talent. We get into how Toronto Tech Week came together and what makes it different from the typical conference scene, the role of social media in launching this movement, how they're keeping things community-driven, nonprofit, and volunteer-led, and the challenges of pulling off a 220-plus event across 19 neighborhoods in Toronto, and why this matters so much for Toronto's tech ecosystem, its founders, and all of the investors. So let's jump in and hear from Julie and Taha about the story behind Toronto Tech Week and what's in store for the city's biggest tech celebration yet. Thanks for joining us in the tank today, Julie and Taha.
Thanks for having us.
How's it going?
Excited to have both of you here. You know, it's awesome that we've got two of the creators of one of the biggest things that is going to happen in Toronto in the next month. But obviously, before we get started, it'd be great if we can get a quick background on sort of both of your current roles, your respective firms, obviously, and how you became a part of Toronto Tech Week. So why don't we start off with you, Julie, and we'll move over to Taha after.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm Julie Baird. I run platform and operations at Golden Ventures. We're an early seed stage sector agnostic venture capital fund based out of Toronto, but investing across North America. And Golden is a founding partner of Toronto Tech Week. And both myself and Amit Shah, the GP for my team, sit on the founding and organizing team. And I'm super excited to be here to talk about Toronto Tech Week. It's been a long time coming.
Awesome. Fantastic. Obviously, Golden, a partner that we know well and a great VC in the ecosystem here. How about you, Taha?
Yeah, I'm Taha. I am the founder of Daybreak Studio. We're a design and technology studio based in Toronto. We kind of work with technology companies of all sizes, working across brand, product, and website. Been an honor to be part of the organizing community here. It's been an honor to work on the Toronto Tech Week website, which has been a really fun one. And yeah, it's been an honor to see how well it's been received by the city too, and excited to be talking about it.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, obviously, we heard rumblings of this ever since the end of Collision last year. But obviously, when this thing came out and got launched with an incredible website that you obviously led up, Taha, the entire city, and in fact, obviously, the entire ecosystem by storm. But take us back a little bit, Julia, how did Toronto Tech Week kind of come to life? What sparked the idea to fill the gap left behind by Collision? And when did the conversations really start?
Yeah, such a good question. Well, I think everyone who's probably listening is familiar with Collision, the fact that it was happening in Toronto for the past several years, moving to Vancouver. It was kind of leaving this gap in the ecosystem. And I don't think Toronto Tech Week was like a unique thought to people necessarily. I think people really started to think about this as soon as Collision announced that it was leaving. And then those conversations sort of picked up speed in and around Collision last year and just post. And so I think what was really exciting is that so many people had ideas and we were able to come together as an organizing committee and team to be able to launch this, but it received so much attention. And I think the attention has been so positive because this is something that everyone wanted. We were just meeting people where they were at. So the conversation started last year and yeah, it really started to pick up steam, I would say like last fall.
Yeah, I remember during the conversations at Collision, this conversation, people were like sitting there having drinks like, what are we going to do next year? Like, how do we do something different that's more Toronto focused? Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Taha.
Yeah, with Collision too, I think even while we had Collision in the city, I think there was still a gap in the ecosystem, to be honest. Like there was still this like desire for people coming together, something more authentic, a little more ground roots, and a way for people to get to know each other. A big thing about Collision, actually, a lot of people said was the post-Collision stuff and things around Collision. And I think it was a good representation of like how people were craving a way to get together with each other, an authentic way to come together. So, I mean, you could even argue how big of a gap Collision left, in the sense that like this is filling a gap I feel like has existed in the ecosystem for quite some time. And it's also part of why, like, as we've started to put this together, how much attention and how much like resurgence of energy it's gotten. Because I think it's been a crave from us in the city for quite some time that we've been looking for. We've been finding gaps and snippets of it. I think we found our little gap and snippets of it through Collision, and now we get to have it without a gap. It's the focus. So I think this summer's gonna be pretty special.
Yeah, I also think like 2019 Collision was like the coming out party for Toronto in terms of like showcasing all the things we had. Obviously, COVID put a pause on that. And then we had this sort of resurgence of Collision, last year. But it did leave a gap. It was kind of like a hello, goodbye for everyone. And we're like, wait, you're leaving? What are we going to do now kind of thing? And it was a perfect kind of handoff at the time that it happened. But I guess, Julia, what would you say makes Toronto Tech Week different than other tech conferences that we have going around the ecosystem? And talk a bit about sort of the context around the community-driven nature of this conference versus others.
Yeah, I think it is just different just in terms of the fact that it's decentralized. So unlike sort of the other collisions or other big events that happen in the tech ecosystem that are run by one organizing committee and they own all the programming, Toronto Tech Week is completely decentralized and very inclusive. So anyone and everybody can get involved. We have events being put on by students, by builders, by VCs, by service providers. Like anyone can really get involved with Toronto Tech Week. And I think that's part of what makes it so special. And going back to Taha's point, actually, even when Collision was here, some of the best events were the ones around it, those surrounding events that were happening that week. And you could fill your entire schedule without even stepping foot on the conference room floor, really. So that's, I think, what people find to be so special is those bespoke and intimate events. And it really is community driven.
Yeah, totally. I mean, Collision was like the shark, and then all the side events were like the real good ones that people wanted to go to, but not really well spoken. It feels like this is like an outsourced strategy, right? As a meet at Golden would say, like OSS is like the best thing to do as an early stage startup. Was it always designed to be community driven, open sourced, or did that come about sort of in the early conversations of like, why don't we just like crowdsource this whole thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was always open source. So we were always crowdsourcing. I think just given the fact that it's a completely volunteer run team putting this together, kind of doing it off the sides of our desk, we needed to be able to have the community get involved. And I think that's also what made it so special. Those events that were happening in and around Collision in previous years were all put on by individual players. And that's what made it so special. And so we definitely knew that we wanted to keep it decentralized and outsource everything.
I love that. Anything you want to add to that, Taha?
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, the concept of Tech Week has existed before Toronto Tech Week. We have Tech Weeks happening in other places in the city. I remember us doing the inaugural New York Tech Week. I don't know if people know the agency.
Exactly. I was going to say.
Yeah, like there was the startup capital and Jordy, and he had this idea of like, hey, why don't we just do this like open, decentralized way for people to come together in New York? I don't know when that was. It was like 3 or 4 years ago. I think post that now, Andreessen does the Tech Weeks. I think they manage the Tech Weeks across a few cities in the States. And so I think the concept has existed before Toronto Tech Week. I'm biased, but my argument would be that Toronto is very authentic because the whole committee and the way that it's being run and the way that we're all coming together are people from all kinds of places. And it's not just like one organization that is like trying to do Tech Week. It's actually a combination of people across places and across orgs. So in its very nature of how Toronto Tech Week is being run, I think it's very authentic. Not to say anything about the other Tech Weeks here, but I think there's great stuff happening on that front. I think that, I think Toronto Tech Week has been something that we've wanted to do for some time. I think it just became something now. And I think the structure of it is pretty similar, like pretty authentically right now.
I mean, listen, I don't know if this has come as a shock to you, but it did to me. New York Tech Week started in 2011. It was a multi-day conference and expo. The very beginning of it was that. It was, startup competitions, a job fair, parties, things like that. But now there's like a full tech week per city. You've got New York Tech Week, you got SF, LA, tech weeks happening all over the place, all over the year. Like there's a website, techweek.com. So this is something that other cities in the US have had. We just never really had that in Toronto. But I want to ask you, Taha, obviously social media played a big role in sort of kicking off the movement here, particularly the tweet that launched the idea. So can you give us a little inside baseball on the role social media played here, particularly the tweet that launched the idea?
Toby has done, a lot of tweets.
Yes.
He had that like the eCanada or like at Canada something that he was also doing. There was also the Beta Kid event, I think last year with Toby. Which
the town hall, I guess.
Town hall, yes. And we're having another one in this Tech Week too. So, and that one was its own thing. I remember a lot of people coming to it. A lot of people really like appreciating Toby. I think he's been like really representing Canada right now. And I think he tweets something every day, to be honest. And so this has been something that I think in the Twitter sphere has been, it's been talked about for quite some time. Social media for us, a large part of it, I mean, even if you look at the journey of how we've been treating social media, in its nature too, a lot of what we've been celebrating and highlighting is the community and the people. So when we're actually talking about things, we're talking about an event that we're excited about. We're excited about a new type of partner coming on and doing something different, doing something new. And if we're also asking people from all kinds of places to host something too. So the whole nature of social media also has just been a place for us to like connect with the community. And I think the better we do that, the better we can truly represent something that people will enjoy, people will come to. Something that I'm proud of is just how diverse the range of events that we have. Like on the website, we had to add a filter, and the filter has so many filters on it because it's like there's just a wide range of events happening. And social media has been a huge part of the process, has been just, telling people to come together and host events, like bring the city together. And initially, that's been like our main focus and what we've been highlighting too. And the cool thing is that people want to do this. So like we actually don't have to do a lot of work and convincing. It actually has required not as much convincing. They've just wanted this little push and this little reminder, this little nag, and then they just kind of come through and they go through all the steps and they put the work into putting together events and whatnot. We've had fun with social media. Like I think that in the launch videos and ways to represent what tech could feel like, what Toronto tech could be represented as, we've wanted to make that almost like a little fun way of representing it. I think the look and feel of Toronto Tech Week has its own unique brand compared to, I think, all the other ones. And I think a huge part of it is a little bit more specific to Toronto. I think it has a bit of this gaming references. It has a retro tech reference in there, a few references in there. So it makes it kind of a warm, more approachable Tech Week. And I think that it would be pretty well represented as Tech Week also comes in here too.
Now, Taha, I know you were the brains behind the website, so I want to give you a full kudos. But like, where was the inspiration? It's got like a very arcade, gamified kind of look to it. You've got such a nice like kind of flow around the city with like the subway line, obviously. What was the inspiration that you got for this website, and how did it kind of all come together before you made the launch?
Yeah, inspiration was my commute to the studio, to be honest. Like we take the streetcar to the studio. I wanted to have the 504. Someone in the studio wanted to have the 501. It's like east to west. It just felt like the perfect way to like navigate the city. And I think the streetcar was like, wait, actually, I have to go through these stops for the streetcar. A lot of people do. We don't have like the new line yet. And it felt perfectly represented. I feel like TTC is like something that everybody talks about and something that is just like part of who we are. And the way that you can navigate the city felt like a great way to also highlight our partners and our sponsors that kind of came on, that's been supporting this movement. So it ended up becoming an authentic way to represent our home. And then we wanted to do this in like a gamified way. So initially when we designed the streetcar, it wasn't supposed to be interactive. And eventually it just became interactive because we were like, actually, we want to see more of this city. And there's only so much of the skyline that you can put because this city is pretty expansive. Like it gets pretty wide, to be honest. And so many landmarks and so many stuff you can show. So then we ended up just adding more and more and more. And then now you can go left to right and really see it. Other inspirations were really just like retro games because there's just like nostalgic qualitative element to that. I think games were a large part of our technology introduction too, as people going into tech. Like we played with Ataris or a Game Boy somewhere or the PlayStation. And that's what early computing felt like to us, was just a way to like have fun. And we wanted to bring that like warmth into it, this like that nostalgic feeling. And that's what it really feels like when you meet people, when you hang out with people, when you actually go to these events. And we wanted to keep that piece to it too. So yeah, a large part of it is fun. Even when in the calendar and the events, you have this like little, dial that you can use to move across some of the
it's got a very Pong-esque, feel to it, like the Atari you mentioned.
Yeah. So I think it's been a really fun one. There's more that we want to do with it. I think there's also going to be other stuff that we're kind of working on that front too. So there's been a lot of expansive ways to represent this language. I think that Homecoming, as a spoiler, I think is going to be a really great one where you're going to see the brand come to life IRL. And I think it'll be a nice way for people to see that and experience that too. But it's been a really fun one. I think to represent a city has been, a dream of mine. So be able to do that in such a fun way, I think it's a dream come true.
Phil, congrats on a great job on that. Julie, I want to talk to you about some of the partnerships that you form, like organizations like Shopify, Google Cloud, obviously the City of Toronto coming together. What does it mean to have some of, those tech giants coming together and supporting the city? And what does success look like for Toronto Tech Week? I know it's only the first year you're hosting it, but what does that mean for you and the community?
Yeah, such a great question. Those partnerships are so important and so critical. And we're so thankful to the City of Toronto, Shopify, and Google Cloud. And what I was really impressed by was just how quickly they moved. Those conversations for maybe some inside baseball started happening in June and July of last year. And so we publicly announced in February, but this has been like a long time coming, and they committed very early on. A special shout out to the city because they moved exceptionally quickly because they recognized that this was something that the city needed. And so those partnerships have allowed Toronto Tech Week to be possible. This is year one, and they really gave us the opportunity to get up and running. In terms of what success looks like, when we had first started, we were like, if we just hit 100 events, that's going to be amazing. That would be great for the city. That was like one number that we had. And today we are over 200 events that are happening across the city. And it's hard to measure what success looks like. But I think when you speak to people and you hear how excited they are, we did a host happy hour with about 80 folks about a month ago now. And just hearing their excitement about this, like that feels like winning in and of itself, even though the week hasn't happened yet. Seeing those registrations come in, to your point, Matt, about social media, seeing the positive uptick is just so special. We can't really measure exactly what success looks like yet entirely for year one, but I would say we're off to a pretty good start so far. And, our hope is that it just puts a spotlight on Toronto as a tech ecosystem and a place to be and a place to build.
Well, I would say with 200 events planned already and counting, you obviously had a pretty good start on this. What does it mean to get the city of Toronto involved? I don't mean to be rude, but like, what does it mean to have them come together and help and support this in terms of like behind the scenes, just so people understand why it's so important to have them at your back?
Absolutely. I definitely love giving them a shout out. We're specifically working with the economic development side of things. And it's so important to have them involved because they are deeply connected within the city in terms of various partnerships that we're working on, some of which I can't announce quite yet, but they're also deeply connected in areas that we're not. As VCs, we have a pretty expansive network in terms of the tech ecosystem. The tech ecosystem is broad. Like, how do we get students involved? How do we get universities involved? How do we get the folks that like we might not know yet involved? It's one thing to get your friends involved, but I think it's so important to reach those like deeper layers of tech. When I look at the calendar of events, there's so many incredible things happening specifically around what does tech look like for immigrants? Like, what are we doing to make it more accessible to them? There's events around globalizing Toronto as like a global place to be and pulling in attendees from sister cities. There's attendees coming from really across the globe. And that's where the city actually plays a really strong part in helping us get connected to those folks that we might not have known otherwise.
Is it like getting signs at the airport? Like all those kind of like little things that you don't think about as a VC, but a global event that's happening in a major city. I assume you need some of those strings pulled, I guess.
Yeah, strings are meaningful, some of which are getting announced soon. Okay. That was a good guess. To one of them.
I get it.
But yeah, it's other community groups. It's things like what you mentioned, and just kind of being able to unlock a couple of things.
I get it. Listen, if Taylor Swift gets her own limo escort from the airport, I'm sure maybe he can get his own limo escort from the airport as well. But I want to talk about some of these exciting events happening. Give us an example of some of the most exciting events or moments that you're looking forward to during Toronto Tech Week.
It's so hard. I think so. Yeah, 200 events. The smallest one being 8 people, the largest one being 4,500 people. There is a wide range of events that are happening across 24 neighborhoods. Some of the ones that I'm specifically looking forward to, oh my gosh, it's actually so hard to name. I have a full list. Obviously, I have to shout out Ripple. Ripple X is happening during Toronto Tech Week. Shameless plug. Golden is obviously also hosting some events, but some other ones. Monday Girl is hosting an event with Intuit, which is really exciting. Elizabeth Stone, the CTO of Netflix, is coming for Elevate Talks. There's a Winning in Retail event happening that's specifically focused on CPG and retail innovation. There's some AI mansion parties that are happening that's being put on by Dreamwell. I actually just saw this really cool event that's happening at Casa Loma. I need to find the name of it, but basically it was talking about microcontrollers and how to create like an immersive experience in terms of escape rooms, which is kind of exciting and random, but I was like, that's super interesting. There's so many. I could really go on and on. It really depends on how many.
No, for sure. Taha, what about you? What are some of the events you're looking forward to most?
I'm super excited for the Geoffrey Hinton and the Courier one along with that. I think they're just, everyone's talking about AI and Toronto has been really like home to this revolution of AI that we're seeing. Geoffrey Hinton is seen as like one of the godfathers of AI and this whole movement. So to be able to represent that and have that in the city, and I think he's also just like a really interesting person. And of course, like the conversation that can come out of that, I think would be really cool. So, and then that also just happening at UofT. There's just like multiple layers to how that's so meaningful. And I think it'll be really cool to pretend I'm a student and go back to UofT or something, go to a lecture hall and then actually get a little lecture on AI from Geoffrey Hinton. But yeah, I think overall, like I'm looking forward to that event. And I think that homecoming, of course, I'm biased and Julie's biased here too. We've been putting a lot of work into that. I think that's going to come together beautifully. I think there's going to be a lot of people there and there's going to be a lot of like headliners that we're really excited about that have Canadian roots, and the conversations there I think are going to be really exciting. There's more to come and more to be announced related to homecoming, but that's going to be a really, really big one. And then of course, like shout out to the beta kit events also that are going on. I think there's going to be some really fun ones there. They're throwing an after party and they're also holding the most ambitious event. Excited for both of those. Maybe I'll run into you there, Matt. We'll see.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's so many great things. A lot of US VCs have been messaging me, as I'm sure they're messaging everyone at the event, headquarters, asking like, what are the best events to go to? And even I, locally in Toronto, don't even know what to send to them because there's just so many good things. There's obviously things that are like private events. There's some open public events. There's some paid for, some free. I just don't think you can go wrong. It's almost like, where do you want to spend your time during this week? And I think because it's the first year, people will, decide on what they want going forward. But you got the homecoming on June 24th at 9 a.m. at Evergreen Brickworks. You've got the Beta Kit Town Hall. You got the Shopify Tech Talks, as you said. You've got the summer social parties, Geoffrey Hinton. There's so much to choose from. I just don't think you can go wrong. But, Taha, I want to think about how do you get different tech communities involved? You got AI, you got fintech, you got B2B, you got consumer. How do you think about presenting a platform to get all the different kind of communities excited about this, given that, there is like fintech week, right? And then there's AI focused, investors or operators. How do you think about appealing to a broader audience?
Yeah, I think there's like overlapping of interests. I think tech is a broad way to represent it. The fact that we just talked about microcontrollers and escape rooms is like a perfect example of that. I think a big part of it, and the reason why we focused on talking about this in a way where I think anybody from this community that is interested in this space or being part of it in this space, like you can host an event, you can attend an event, you can be a way to bring this together, has been a huge part of it. We kept it pretty open from the very beginning. All the initial conversations that we've had, part of the why we have so many different types of filters in the calendar is because like there are so many events happening and there's so many different types of events happening. So we want people to be able to at least, navigate through each of them. But I think the way that you're able to see this variety of events in itself makes you think that, okay, cool, like I can do something, I can put something together. A student at UofT or a student at Waterloo can put something together. I think Socratica is part of the partners here and they're planning to do something. So we have like a wide range of people from the very beginning being interested. Julia, you can add to that. I know you guys have done a lot of partnership work from the very beginning, done a lot of conversations around getting full on board.
Such a good question. I think to Taha's point, we've tried to keep it as like an open platform, but when we had initially launched, we launched with about 40 partners and we wanted to make sure that those partners were diverse, that they weren't leaning too heavily into one area. And I think that what has allowed us to stay diverse is that when we launched, there was such a diverse set of events already. And those were just some conversations that we were having with very early partners to get them on board and to get the community excited. And I think that really set the stage for the diversity of events that we have, whether that be through theme, format, attendees, audience, et cetera. Like, I think that definitely helped us.
That's really smart. I know that this was set up as a nonprofit volunteer-run organization. Julia, how has that kind of shaped the development of all the events, and how has it kind of brought about some different challenges when organizing such a massive week-long event with such kind of decentralized leadership?
Absolutely. It is a nonprofit, and there's only a handful of folks on the organizing team, but it really is the community that makes this all possible. And I think from a leadership standpoint, we all have our special strengths. Taha has done amazing work on the website. Myself, Mel, and Tyann have been leading partner ops. Amit and Satish, as you know, Matt, have the most incredible networks, and same with Siri as well on the team. And everyone really has their own special lane that they're in. And I think that's been really helpful to divide and conquer. We come together as a team always to make some big decisions. It really is so community driven that we're very lucky to have the support of the ecosystem behind us. And they're the reasons why this has been driven so far forward.
Do you guys ever refer to yourselves as the Avengers? Because it definitely
honestly,
the Avengers, like I think that's kind of what you're like. Everyone's got their superpowers.
What's the DC version of that? That's another one. The Suicide Squad could be another. I think, or in some way, like how in Avatar they have all the different elements like fire, earth, wind. Yeah. So we have like each of those, and I think when you combine them together, you pretty much have everything that you need. So the team does kind of feel like that. I think we have everything that we need in each person to tackle some side, and when you have that, it's just very easy to work together. To be honest, it's like you know where to take things on, where you can support. and everybody does their own thing. And it's honestly incredible, like how much you can do, but just having a really nice cohesion between people. And it felt pretty natural between us and the organizing community and between the community too.
Absolutely. It's quite incredible. I mean, you've obviously brought a lot of Toronto's tech ecosystem together, but Julia, how have you thought about broadening it out for a more global audience? How have you even physically gotten the word out globally? And how did having people like Toby and Chamath Palihapitiya and Geoffrey Hinton coming out to speak play a role in kind of shaping those conversations with global participants?
Yeah. So global participation is something that we've thought about from day one. And I would say our first partner that helped us with that was CPL. The CPL super sessions are happening on Monday and Tuesday of Toronto Tech Week. And this is their super session when their 12 satellite offices come from across the globe to Toronto. So already by virtue of that, there was this incredible lineup of individuals from really across the globe. And from there, like the inside baseball is reaching out, like straight up cold calling our friends and tapping on our network to see who else might be who might be interested in getting involved. That was one way of doing it. And then from there, it kind of was organic when folks coming to us. Like I know that there's several delegations coming from Quebec, from Calgary, from Vancouver. Randomly, there's a lot of people coming from Maryland and a lot of people coming from London, England. So the word has really spread pretty far and wide, which is incredible to see. But initially, it was a lot of cold outreach to folks because this is new, right? Like no one really knew about it. So it was us sort of spreading the word, and then it kind of picked up organically. And then, luckily we are able to have the support of incredible leaders like Harley, Chamath, Geoffrey Hinton coming to speak, and really so many more to name as well. And when they should shed a spotlight on Toronto Tech Week, I think that also gets everyone really excited about the week.
Okay, I got to ask you an honest question, being a Torontonian and all of us are here. With Collision, it was always kind of centered around down by the X, by the waterfront, on the lakeshore, on the west end. It was kind of all cobbled together over there. But, logistically, you've got 19 different neighborhoods across Toronto hosting events. How are you thinking about logistics, or how are you trying to protect sort of like the fact that you don't control a lot of the crazy traffic we have in the city in terms of helping people navigate across all the different neighborhoods that you're hosting this in? Either you or Julia or Taha can take that one.
This is such an exciting question. And I wish we were having it like 2 weeks from now, because we're working on some pretty exciting things in the background that I hope we're able to announce. But yeah, there's 24 neighborhoods across 200 events, 24 neighborhoods now. The 3 top neighborhoods are the Financial District, King West, and the Entertainment District. So a little bit of a different area than where Collision was being held in previous years. We're doing our best to help folks navigate. More on that later. But it is completely decentralized. And so, you could be jumping around the city, you could be building your schedule in such a way that you are, closer to things. That part is really up to the community, but it's not as congested, I would say, as in years past.
Yeah, absolutely. I always plan my events on like being in certain areas and just having to say no to certain things because they were a little too far.
Yeah. I mean, the beauty of Toronto is like the neighborhoods, to be honest. Like each neighborhood has its own experience. I think we've all walked through Kensington, Ossington, we've walked the west side to the east side. And I think there's like each neighborhood having different types of experiences that just being in gives you. Very excited actually for it to be more spread across the neighborhoods. I would love people coming from London to actually walk through the city and experiencing different parts of it, not just the core downtown, not just King West. Like you're actually being pushed across places. You're going to go to UofT and might go into a lecture hall, and that's its own experience in the city. And then you might go to King West and go to some kind of venue. And then you might go to Evergreen Brickworks, which is like a completely different side of the city for the homecoming. So I do think that, especially people that are visiting, will experience this city a lot more authentically. You're not just staying in a hotel and just going to the same place for a conference. Wherever you're staying and then wherever you're going, it's going to constantly keep changing. And it does mean you have to navigate it. Maybe you're going to get one of those like city bikes and you might actually just like bike across. Maybe you'll take the TTC. You might take the 504 or 501. Maybe you'll take the Line 1. I think that like the nature of actually navigating the city and experiencing different parts of it is going to add to the experience. It's going to make it even more authentic, and excited for people, particularly people that are visiting, to get to see the different parts and the different neighborhoods that we have.
Yeah. I mean, listen, this is in late June. We got hopefully some good weather. Make use of those bike lanes. I think it's going to be awesome to see people kind of moving around the city. It's good to showcase Toronto at its, hopefully finest time from a weather standpoint. But Julia, I want to talk about how the community is thinking about balancing private and public events, right? As I mentioned, there are different kinds of events out there, free, not free. How are you thinking about managing accessibility? Because there is like kind of an application to the organizers of the programs between private and public events?
Yeah, this is actually something that I've been surprised. Right now, 37% of events are entirely open to the public. It was much higher than what I would have thought about, a couple months ago. I thought that there would be a lot more private events. So it's really special to see that so many event hosts and community groups are completely opening up their doors. And so there is really a good mix. Like, I've got the stats in front of me, but 37% are open to the public. 30% are open to attendee applications. Only 15% is invite only, and 16% is open to a specific target audience. So let's say it's like you have to be in marketing, or you're an engineer, or
That's
you're a CTO, et cetera.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Very cool stats. I'm glad you had those. What do you think about sort of the participation rate from like local GTA participants versus the broader, or even global participation?
Yeah, I feel like that might be a tough question to answer now, just because it hasn't happened yet. So yeah, hypothesizing. So far from what we've heard from event hosts is that there is pretty good uptake. Been running bi-weekly like Q&As and event best practices. And so we've been in conversation a lot with event hosts. And so far the uptake has been really great. Some people are already oversubscribed. For the folks that maybe need a little bit more support, we have a Slack community with over 200 event hosts in that community. And we'll put an all call out. So a lot of the stuff that you see on our social media is actually driven from that Slack community. We'll say, who needs help pushing their event? Like, if you need extra applications for your event, like, let us know. And that's the stuff that we're pushing on socials. So we're really doing our best to support there.
I love that. That's amazing. I want to ask you, Taha, how do you think Toronto Tech Week will help address some of the challenges and opportunities in tech and beyond, with this style of a conference format?
Yeah. I was in SF a couple of weeks ago for Config, and I think there was so many rooms that I've gone to where I felt like I've just seen like 80% Canadians. Like, I would just ask where they're from. They're from Waterloo or from UofT, or it was literally 80% Canadians in almost every single room I've gone to. And to me, it just told me that, Canada, and I think even Toronto and the local community of Toronto has been just the root of where talent comes from. It might not be where talent ends, and that's been a challenge. It is where talent comes from. And if you actually look at the progress of technology, and if you actually go to all the places where a lot of advancements are happening, a lot of people are going, and you will just keep running into Canadians. It's impossible to avoid them. And it goes to show how much of an impact we've had in this industry, even though that Canadians and Canada might not be attributed to it. So with Toronto Tech Week, what's going to be really nice about it is that it's going to be a reason for those people that are not here to come back, just to come visit. It's their home. I think they should do it anyways. They should say hi to their mom or wherever it is, and they can do that, and they can go to an event at the same time. I think that will honestly do a lot already. Just bringing people together and having those like just sparks that happen in conversation and seeing what a community feels like. It's going to like make a positive change to the ecosystem. I think it will lead to new friendships. It might lead to new companies starting. It might lead to like a person finding their co-founder. It might lead to a lot of these things. And a lot of these things happen from honestly a collection of small things and a medium-sized things. And what I like about Toronto Tech Week is that it's a collection of things, it's a collection of small things, medium things, large events too. And it's going to call all these people, all these Canadians to be like, you know what, maybe I should go visit my mom at this time. Maybe I should go back to Toronto for a little bit. Maybe I should go back to UofT and go back to a lecture hall once again. And I think those things will go pretty far. And it is going back into our roots. It's acknowledging it. I think it's celebrating it. It's bringing those people together and more. So I think a large part of this change is going to happen from the people that have already made so much progress in this industry. I think attributing that and pulling them into one place is going to just initiate another sequence of events. And I'm excited to see what that's going to be. I think we're going to feel it during the week. And I'm sure we will see like second order, third order effects of it for the year ahead and multiple weeks ahead post it too.
No, it's such a great point. I mean, every time we go to different cities, we always somehow gravitate towards the other Canadians or Torontonians in the room, but we're like, oh, you're in New York or you're in SF or you're in Chicago or whatever. And I love how you called it homecoming as like the big event sort of on day one, because it really will feel like a homecoming for a lot of people who exactly are coming to visit their family during the summer, but there's also value in it, right? There's a lot of networking opportunities that people are usually flying to other cities for that realize that they can do it here with some of the best tech people in the world. So I love that. Julie, I want to ask you though, for people who have yet to submit an event with 200 and counting, and they're considering hosting an event in Toronto Tech Week, what advice would you give to them about sort of aligning their goals with the overall spirit of the week?
So first of all, if folks want to still host, that's amazing. It's really easy to do so on the website. You just click host, there's a form, submit all the details. In terms of aligning with the goals of the week, it's really about celebrating and amplifying Canadian tech, but also, bringing in our neighbors from the South or from across the globe And I think if you're an event host and there's something that you feel a calling to do or to be able to bring people together, this is definitely the opportunity to do it. We have done our best to make this as accessible as possible. We have a host hub where there are venues. I'll shout out the Well. This space is gone, but they were giving away free space to Toronto Tech Week event hosts, which is pretty incredible. And there's also Troni, the restaurant group, is doing something for Toronto Tech Week hosts. There's a lot of people that have come together to be able to make hosting really accessible for event hosts. There's hotel discounts if you're flying folks in, or speakers or notables, etc. So there's a lot of resources available to hosts if they do want to still put something on, and we really just welcome it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you guys have done a fantastic job. You know, that was one of the big qualms I feel people had also with Collision, was that you kind of had to either say you were an unaffiliated event or you were affiliated, where this is like, there's no more of that red tape kind of thing, which I love. It's really a community driven approach. You know, I'm going to ask both of you this question, starting with you first, Taha. For everyone, you know, attending, what is the one thing that you hope attendees will take away from Toronto Tech Week once it's all over?
I think like how easy it is to make friends in Toronto. Like, I think how easy it is to meet people here and how easy it is to honestly like get together with people here. I think that there's been a minute, I think post-COVID, as a city, we took a little bit longer than other cities to get back together with each other. And I think that we've come back now. And one of the things that I've always recognized about the city is that quite genuinely, it's so easy to get to know another person. Everyone's pretty open-minded. Everyone's pretty approachable. You can talk to anybody. You can really get to know people. And I think that is a point that I think we have to, as a selling point of the city. It's like how easy it is to engage and I think make new connections, meet new people of all types from all kinds of places. It's going to be pretty diverse during the week. And I hope people go to all kinds of stuff. And then through those, they get to meet people and they get to talk to people that they've never talked to before with similar interests as them and make a few more new friends. And maybe they'll lead to even more things, you know, but it's easy to do here. I think it's a selling point of Canadians. And I'm excited for people to do that during Tech Week.
IRL friendships. Who knew? That's a thing, I guess, these days. Yeah. You know, same question to you, Julia.
Yeah, I completely echo everything that Taha said. I think for folks that are local to Toronto, I hope they leave feeling inspired to continue building and growing in Canada and in Toronto. And for the folks that are visiting, I hope they also leave feeling inspired that this is a place to invest, to build, to, you know, start new companies here. So yeah, I hope everyone feels inspired and connected post Toronto Tech Week.
Absolutely, guys. You guys have knocked it out of the park so far, and we've only just begun. You know, before we wrap things up, we always ask our guests for their fast favorites. So first off, we'll ask you, Taha, and then you can answer after Julia. Taha, your favorite podcast?
I got to give shout out to the Technology Brothers podcast right now. And I think there's a new article from the Information on them or something like that. I think the format is so interesting. I've known Jordy for quite some time. It's like 4 or 5 years ago from Party Around Capital Day. So it's been cool to see how much success that they've had. And I think they're a funny bunch. And the format is interesting that it's live streamed every single day. So I haven't get to always watch it, but I always see snippets of it and it's hilarious and it's fun and it's cool. So
yeah, totally reinvented the game of podcast with the live stream, but also again, you can't watch it because you're busy with stuff. You can pick up on the snippets. It's like the highlights of like, don't watch a whole like sporting event. You just want to see the snippets. You get it in like a story format, which is great. How about you, Julia?
I love the HSR podcast by Maggie Sellers. She's a Canadian living in California and she's an angel investor and turned venture capitalist. So I think her podcast is really interesting. She always has really cool guests on.
What does HSR stand for?
Hot, Smart, Rich. And she has a fund with her sister, who's Katie Sellers, who is the CFO of Majuri. So they're a pretty powerhouse duo.
That's cool. Hot, Smart, Rich. All right. Next is your favorite newsletter or blog. We'll start with you, Julia.
Also, the Hot, Smart, Rich newsletter by Maggie Sellers. It's really great.
What do they write about?
So, mostly consumer news, like consumer and tech news. Yeah.
Fantastic. How about you, Taha?
I've been enjoying the writing of Sherry Ning. She's like a writer in Toronto. She has like a Substack that she has, and she's been killing it. I think she writes beautifully and just writes about all kinds of random stuff, but just a very great writer and very happy to and privileged to call her a friend. And I'm like subscribing to every single thing. And I think she has a book that she's writing right now too, which I'm excited about.
Oh, fantastic. All right, Taha, your favorite tech gadget?
My MacBook Pro. I take it with me everywhere. Like I couldn't live without it. The M4 chip is killing it right now. Whatever new chip's coming out, I'm on it. Yeah, I'm running like a million things. I have 5 million tabs open.
Are you replacing your laptop like every 2-3 years?
I replace it every year or two, yes.
Wow. Yeah. Every year. I think I replaced my new MacBook. I have the new one as well from 2017. It was my last one.
Yeah, they last a long time. I'm just a little spoiled, I think, with these things. And I have an excuse to keep getting them because my whole life is on this. But it's been,
How about you, Julia?
Definitely the AirPod Maxes. Like they're my favorite headphones.
Why?
They're so good at noise canceling and they're so comfortable. So I think that's why.
It's probably safer for your ears than wearing AirPods all day as well, probably.
Yeah, I don't know if either is safer, but we can say that.
Okay. Julia, your favorite new trend?
I didn't know how to answer this question, to be honest. So pass.
Could be anything. All right, fine. Taha, you go.
I just saw that, like, I don't know, Johnny Ive and Love From and just got bought for $6.5 billion by OpenAI. And I think that, I don't know, design feels like a trend now. It feels like something that a lot of people are talking about. Taste is something that people are talking about.
I've heard the word taste come back to life in the last few weeks, and it's definitely culminated in the Johnny Ive acquisition.
Yeah, every day there's a new thing related to design. And I think that Johnny Ive has returned. And I think that let's see what it means for the industry. I think it may just mean that my job is secure for the next few years. Who knows? But
I like that.
I think that trend I've been seeing is great. Yeah, it's worth $6.5 billion, maybe. I don't know. Who knows?
Hey, or just friendship. You may be, just friendship. Friend. Yeah. Julia, did you think of one during that time or you want to skip?
I'll skip. I'm honestly just thinking like low-rise jeans are back and I'm here for it. Like you asked about trends and that's the only way.
That's okay. It doesn't have to be tech related. I like it. Low-rise jeans. Okay. Julia, your favorite book?
I love Factfulness by Hans Rosling. If you need to like feel better about the world, that's a good book to read.
Okay, I've not heard that one. And what about you, Taha?
Favorite is hard, but my recent book that I've been reading right now that I've enjoyed is Poor Charlie's Almanac. I've been making my way through all the
from a design guy. That's interesting. A design guy.
Yeah, I know. Who would have thought a design guy just in economy? But I mean, the way that Charlie Munger speaks, I feel like anybody could read him. Like, yeah,
it's quite artistic.
Quite artistic, yeah. And he's like very opinionated and he's actually pretty funny. He has this dry humor that I really enjoy. Yes, he's a hilarious guy. And all the Stripe books are great. So I'm making my way through it. I read Scaling People before that. This has been an excellent listen. I've been enjoying it.
Nice. Okay. And last but not least, we'll start with you, Taha. Your favorite life lesson?
I think trusting intuition, to be honest. Like I think some things, I think your body and you feel it more than sometimes logically makes sense. And the more I've trusted my intuition, my gut feeling, the easier my life has become and the easier things have become. So it can sometimes be hard to, your brain and your heart might be in different places, but I think trusting your heart, trusting the intuition will always take you where you want to go.
Love it. And Julia, you wrap things up.
Yeah, I love that. Favorite life lesson, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Oh, I love that.
So mostly about your mindset.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us in the tank today with Julia Baird and Taha Hossain from Toronto Tech Week. Make sure you go to torontotechweek.com and sign up for all the events going on from June 23rd to 27th, 2025.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Matt.